All right, so you want to build a truly impressive upper body. Let me tell you, the journey doesn't start with your chest or your arms. No, it starts right here with your shoulders. So let's forget everything you thought you knew, because we're about to break down the actual blueprint for building them perfectly. And that is so true, right? Your shoulders are the foundation for, well, pretty much everything else. In this explainer, we're going to zero in on the two key players that really define their shape and their strength, the front delts and the side delts. And here's the thing you've absolutely got to get. These two muscles have completely different jobs. Your front delt, that's your engine. It's providing all that raw pressing power. But the side delt, that's the architect, the sculptor. It's what carves out that wide, athletic V-taper. If you can nail this one difference, trust me, you've basically unlocked the whole game. Okay, so first up in our blueprint, the powerhouse. I'm talking about the front delt. This is kind of the unsung hero that does the heavy lifting, I mean literally, in almost every single upper body workout you do. You know, this muscle is it's fundamental. Just think about it for a second. Anytime you push something away from your body, whether it's a barbell, a dumbbell, or even your own body weight in a push-up, your front delt is firing on all cylinders. So how do we actually train this thing? Well, the overhead barbell press, that's the king, no question. It's the best for building raw strength. If you want more targeted work, the dumbbell front raise is perfect for isolating it. And then you've got the Arnold press, which is really unique because that rotational movement not only hammers the front delt, but also brings the side delt into the action for more complete development. But let's talk about the king for a second, because form is everything here. Keeping your core tight protects your spine. Pressing in a straight vertical line makes sure you're getting maximum front delt activation. And controlling the weight on the way down, that negative motion, is where so much of the muscle growth actually happens. Whatever you do, don't just let it drop. And man, this is a mistake I see all the time. People load up the bar way too heavy, they use a ton of momentum, and they just risk getting hurt. You have to remember, the goal isn't just to move the weight, it's to force the muscle to do the work. Slow, controlled reps with a weight you can actually handle will always build more muscle. Okay, one last super important point on front delts. Because they're involved in so many pressing exercises like your bench press, it's really easy for them to get overdeveloped compared to the muscles in your back or the other parts of your shoulder. And this can actually pull your shoulders forward and really mess with your posture. Balance is absolutely essential. All right, on to part 2 of our blueprint. So if the front delt is your engine for power, the side delt, that's all about the look. It's the muscle that builds that powerful, wide frame. You ever see someone and wonder how they got those 3D boulder shoulders? This is it. This is the secret. The lateral deltoid sits right on the side, and when you develop it, it physically makes you look wider. It is the secret ingredient for creating that coveted V-taper silhouette. Now, here's a key difference. Unlike the front delt, your side delt absolutely loves isolation movements. The classic dumbbell lateral raise is the foundation you build everything on. The cable version is awesome because it provides constant tension through the whole movement, and the machine version lets you safely overload the muscle without worrying about cheating. The form here, it's subtle, but oh my gosh, it is so important. A slight lean forward helps isolate the side delt by taking your front delt out of the movement. You want to raise the weights out to your sides, stopping right at shoulder height. Any higher is just ego. And that little pause at the top, that's the magic moment. That's where you really squeeze the muscle and force it to work its hardest. And here we go again with the main theme, right? It's all about tension, not just heaving weight around. If you lock your elbows, you're just putting stress on the joint, not the muscle. If you tense your wrists, your forearms take over. So keep a slight bend in that elbow, keep your wrists nice and neutral, and you're making sure all that work is going right where you want it, on that side delt. Okay, so we've got pressing power from the front, and we've got that athletic width from the side. So the big question is, how do we actually put this all together into a balanced, effective strategy? Let's just boil this all down to the basics. It really is this simple. Front delts build power, so you train them with heavy presses. Side delts build width, so you train them with controlled raises. Think of them as partners in creating the perfect shoulder, but they speak totally different languages when it comes to training. And really, this is the number one thing I want you to take away from all this. You can't just do a ton of bench presses and expect to have wide, round shoulders. It just doesn't work that way. For a truly balanced, strong, and aesthetic physique, you have to give each one the specific attention it craves. That's how they grow together, in harmony. So I want you to take a look at your own routine for a second. Are you all about pressing power, but maybe you're lacking that width? Or maybe you've been focusing on raises, but your overall strength is kind of lagging behind. You've got the blueprint now. The only question left is, where are you going to start?
All right, let's talk shoulders. Today, we're going to break down a core idea from the EthioFit Journey philosophy. And it all comes down to one simple, absolutely non-negotiable step that, let's be honest, a lot of us probably get wrong.
Every time you hit the gym for a shoulder workout, you've got a goal in mind. We're all chasing that feeling of strength, that powerful look. And this is pretty much our blueprint for getting there.
So what is the ultimate goal here? Well, the source material is super specific. It's not just about getting big. It's about achieving 3 key things. You want them wide, you want them strong, and you want them defined. That's the trifecta, the whole package we're aiming for.
And just so we're all on the same page, the muscles we're really focusing on here are the deltoids. You probably just call them your delts. They're the ones that create that awesome rounded cap on your shoulder that we're trying to build. Okay, so you've got that goal locked in your head. You're fired up. What's the first thing you want to do? Come on, you know the answer. You walk right over to that dumbbell rack and you want to grab the heaviest weights you can possibly handle, right? Because more weight means more growth. Or does it?
And here it is. This might just be the single most important sentence in the entire source. It's a foundational rule. It's non-negotiable. Before you even think about picking up a heavy weight, you have to warm up.
So why is this rule so important? Well, it really comes down to 2 critical things that are going to get you to your goal faster. You need to activate the muscle for way better performance, and you need to protect the joint so you can actually keep training for the long haul.
These 2 benefits, performance and protection, they're totally interconnected. So let's break down what that really means, and we'll start with activation.
So what is muscle activation anyway? Honestly, think of it like sending a wake-up call to your delts. You're getting the blood flowing, you're getting all those nerve connections firing up, and you're basically telling your body, hey, pay attention over here. We're about to do some serious work. A muscle that's activated is a muscle that's ready to perform at its best, and that means you get more out of every single rep. Okay, so we get the why, better performance, less risk. Simple enough. So now for the how. And the good news is this source keeps it incredibly simple.
It's literally a 2-step process. That's it. First, some light shoulder rotations. You're just lubricating the joint, getting it moving through its full range. Second, grab a resistance band for some light stretches to gently wake up those muscle fibers. That is all it takes to prepare your body to train safely and effectively.
And this leads us to the most powerful idea in the whole thing. It's a complete reframing of what the first step of your workout actually is. And spoiler alert, it is not lifting the weight.
The entire philosophy can be summed up with this great journey metaphor. If your goal is the destination and your workout is the path to get there, then your warm-up is the very first step you take on that path. You wouldn't just sprint at the start of a long hike, right? The exact same logic applies here. So, the big takeaway here is simple, but it's profound. The journey to building those powerful shoulders doesn't start when you're struggling with that first heavy rep. It begins in those quiet moments right before, with that intentional act of preparation. It starts small to build something strong. So, the real question is, are you ready to begin?
All right, today we're jumping into a huge topic in strength training. How do you actually get stronger, but, do it the smart way? Let's dive right in. Yeah, you've heard it. I've heard it. We've all heard it being yelled across the gym. It's that classic motivational line, right? It gets the adrenaline pumping, makes you want to throw another plate on the bar, hit that new PR. It's exciting, for sure. But is it the whole story? And that's really the big question, isn't it? Is that number on the barbell the only thing that really matters? Or could our obsession with just lifting heavier and heavier actually be holding us back? And even worse, putting us on a fast track to getting hurt? Okay, so let's talk about what I call the heavyweight trap. Seriously, it's probably one of the biggest roadblocks to making real, long-term progress in the gym. See, when the only thing you're chasing is a bigger number, you start to sacrifice the one thing that actually makes you stronger, doing the exercise correctly. The focus totally shifts from the muscle you're trying to build to just moving the weight. And that right there is where things can start to go south. So if just chasing heavier weight isn't the answer, then what is? Well, that brings us to what is without a doubt the most important rule in the weight room, building a rock-solid foundation. This right here, this is the golden rule. It's everything. Before you even think about adding more weight, you have to become a master of the movement itself. Period. Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine you're building a house. You'd never start stacking floors on a shaky, weak foundation, right? Of course not. The whole thing would just collapse. Well, your body is exactly the same. Perfect form is that solid, stable foundation that lets you safely build strength on top of it, layer by layer, for years to come. I mean, when you look at it side by side, the two approaches couldn't be more different. On one side, you've got the weight first mentality, and that usually comes with a high risk of injury, really sloppy reps where you're just guessing, and hitting those frustrating plateaus. But then you look at the form first side. What do you get? You get back protection, controlled movements, actual muscle activation, and the kind of results that you can sustain for the long haul. The choice seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Okay, so we get it. Focused on form. We know the what, but what about the how? Let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual rules you can take with you to the gym for your very next workout. It really just boils down to these 4 pillars. And look, these are not complicated genius ideas. But doing them over and over, every single time, that's what separates the good lifters from the truly great ones. Brace your core, control the rep, feel the muscle, and don't rush. So that first pillar, bracing your core. Think of this as your body's own natural weight belt. Keeping your core tight and stable is absolutely non-negotiable. It protects your spine, it helps transfer power, and it gives you the stability you need to do pretty much any lift safely. And the other 3 pillars, they're all about how you execute the lift. Control every rep. That means no sloppy, jerky movements. You own the weight, it doesn't own you. Then feel the muscle working. That's all about the mind-muscle connection. Are you actually feeling it in your chest on a bench press, or is it all shoulder? And finally, don't rush. Slow it down. Use a deliberate pace. Using momentum to sling the weight around is not your friend here, trust me. So when we put all this together, shifting our mindset away from just the weight on the bar and really drilling down on these pillars of execution, we find ourselves on the real path, the path to results that actually stick. And this brings us to this big idea, optimal lifting. It's not about having one perfect workout. It's the powerful combo of using perfect technique and then just doing that again and again and again. It's where quality meets consistency. That's the magic formula. So at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway is actually pretty simple. The secret sauce isn't in how much weight you can lift one time, it's in the quality of every single rep, applied with relentless consistency over time. That is what really truly drives progress. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. The next time you walk into the gym, the next time you pick up a barbell or a dumbbell, what's your goal going to be? Are you going to chase a number for your ego, or are you going to chase the perfection of a single, flawless, well-executed rep? The choice is all yours.
It's funny how sometimes the most powerful ideas are hiding in plain sight. I stumbled across one in, of all places, the sign-off of a fitness video from EthioFit. And it turns out there's a whole philosophy for success packed into just a few words. So today, we're going to deconstruct it. Let's dive in. So every great journey starts with a destination, right? And in this case, it's this, a really specific, really desirable outcome. This is the promise. It's the hook that grabs you and makes you want to know the secret. Now, for you, it might not be about fitness at all. We all have our own version of stronger, wider, and more defined shoulders. It could be a career goal, a creative project, anything.
But here's the twist. The secret to getting there isn't some magic exercise or a secret trick. It's a mindset. It's a whole philosophy. The EthioFit routine is actually giving us a blueprint that works for, well, anything. And that's what we're here to break down. Because the real key to achieving that big goal isn't just about what you do. It's about how you think about doing it.
Okay, so to really get this philosophy, we first have to accept 2 fundamental truths about taking on any big, meaningful goal. And these aren't just opinions. They're kind of like the laws of physics for progress. This is the reality of the journey. The first truth is what I call the marathon view. And look, this is the one that's hard for a lot of us to swallow. It's the simple fact that anything worth having, whether it's building a strong body, a successful company, or mastering a skill, it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to have patience. You have to manage your expectations. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, for sure.
And then, on the complete flip side, you have the second truth, the micro action. This is the perfect partner to the marathon view.
It's the understanding that the entire long, winding road of that marathon is actually paved with tiny individual actions. That one email you write, it counts. That single page you read, it counts. Every single rep, it all adds up. Nothing is too small.
Now, at first glance, you might think, hold on, those two things sound like total opposites. One's telling you to be patient for the long haul, the other's telling you to be obsessed with the immediate moment. But that's the magic. They work together perfectly. You need that big picture view so you don't get frustrated and burn out. And you need that intense focus on the small action to actually move forward. The real secret is to hold both of these truths in your head at the same time.
And it all boils down to this. 1. That's it. The whole marathon is just one step repeated. That dream body is just one rep repeated. Your entire, massive, overwhelming goal is built from this single unit of effort, done over and over and over again.
So, if we accept that reality, that it's a marathon built of single steps, then how in the world do we actually navigate it? Well, the philosophy doesn't leave us hanging. It gives us a really clear 3-part action plan to make it happen.
And here it is, the Ethiol Fit method. It looks simple, right? But don't let that fool you. This is incredibly powerful. These 3 pillars, think of them as the engine that's going to drive you through the whole marathon, one rep at a time. So let's break each one down. First up, consistency. This is the practical side of every rep counts. It's simply about showing up. It's about putting in the work, especially on those days where you feel zero inspiration and would rather do anything else. Consistency is what builds momentum when you can't even see the results yet. It's what forges the chain, link by painful link.
Next, pillar 2 is motivation, and this is your fuel. This connects right back to that progress takes time idea, because let's be honest, that initial burst of excitement when you start something new, it fades. It always does. Motivation is what you have to find to keep going when the novelty wears off. It's about remembering your why to get you through those long, quiet stretches of the journey where it feels like nothing is happening. And finally, the 3rd pillar, perseverance. This is that command to keep pushing forward, and really, this is just about pure grit. This is what you need when you hit a wall, when you have a setback, when your progress just totally stalls. Perseverance isn't a feeling, it's a choice. It's the active decision to not quit when things get tough.
So, as you can probably tell by now, this is about way more than a workout. That simple little sign-off is a universal template for success. It applies to just about any area of your life. And this is where we turn it all around and make it about your personal journey.
So here it is. Let's put it all together into a simple blueprint. First, you have to define your goal. Get specific. What's your personal version of stronger shoulders? Second, you have to embrace the pace. Just accept that it's going to be a marathon. Third, focus on the action. What's the one rep you can do today? And finally, you just have to execute the method. Stay consistent, find your motivation, and keep on pushing forward.
And all of that brings us to the last and maybe the most important question. This is where this whole philosophy stops being an idea and becomes real for you. So forget the finish line for a second. Forget the huge, distant goal. Just looking at the next 24 hours, what is the single most important action you can take? What does one rep look like on your journey right now today?
Have you ever looked at someone's shoulders and thought, man, they look powerful from every single angle? But then you look at your own and they only seem to look good from the front. Well, the secret is a muscle that most of us just completely forget about. So today, we're going to show you exactly how to sculpt those missing 3D rear delts.
In this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. You can do shoulder presses all day long, but if you're ignoring the back of your shoulder, you're really just building half a muscle. It's such a common mistake, but don't worry, we're going to fix it right now.
All right, so first things first, we've got to understand what we're actually targeting. So let's pull back the curtain on this forgotten muscle and really see what it is and why it's the absolute key to unlocking balanced, powerful shoulders.
It sounds like a simple question, right? But you know, the term delts gets thrown around a lot. Your deltoid is actually made of 3 separate parts, or heads. You've got the front, the side, and the rear. And the one we're focusing on today, that rear delt, is almost always the one that gets left behind.
So to put it simply, your rear delts, or if you want to get technical, your posterior deltoids, are the muscles right on the back of your shoulders. They are what create that full, rounded, 3D look that makes your shoulders pop from the side and the back, not just when you're looking in the mirror. And beyond just looking good, they're so important for posture and keeping your shoulders healthy.
And this? Wow. This just shows you the difference perfectly. On one side, you see shoulders that
Yeah, they look okay from the front, but kind of flat from the back or side. That is the classic sign of neglected rear delts. But on the other side, you get that powerful 3D pop. And that's what happens when you finally give those rear delts the attention they deserve.
So how do we actually start building this muscle? Well, we're going to start with a foundational movement. It's designed specifically to isolate that rear delt and, maybe more importantly, teach you how to actually feel it working. Our starting point is a total classic, the bent over reverse fly. Now, the goal here isn't to lift a ton of weight, not at all. It's all about building that mind-muscle connection, making sure your rear delts are doing all the work without your bigger back muscles jumping in to help. Let's break this down, because form is everything here. You hinge at your hips. Keep that back straight to protect your spine. Then, with a little bend in your elbows, you raise the weights out to your sides in a big arc. But that third step, that's the secret sauce. You have to squeeze. Really focus on using only your rear delts to lift that weight. Try to keep your traps out of it.
And please do not ignore this tip. Seriously, check your ego at the door on this one. If you go too heavy, I promise you, your back muscles are just going to take over the whole movement. So go light. Feel that muscle working. It is 100% about quality reps here, not how much weight is on the dumbbell.
Okay, so dumbbells are awesome, but they have one little drawback. There can be moments in the lift, especially at the bottom, where the tension just drops off. So how do we solve that? How do we keep that muscle under fire from the very beginning to the very end of the rep?
And that brings us to our second move. To solve that tension problem and really speed up growth, we're going to use a tool that keeps the muscle working through every single inch of the movement. No breaks.
And we get that constant tension by heading over to the cable machine. The exercise is the rear delt cable fly. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer for building that muscle. The setup couldn't be easier. Just set the cables to about shoulder height and then cross your hands. So you'll grab the left handle with your right hand and the right handle with your left. Then you just pull out and back in a nice, smooth, controlled arc. And just like before, the magic is in the details. That little 1-second pause at the very end, when that muscle is fully squeezed, oh man, that's where the real growth happens. You'll feel it.
And this is exactly why cables are so powerful for this. See, with a dumbbell, gravity is pulling straight down, so the tension can change. But with a cable, the resistance is constant from the second you start pulling to the second you finish. There's literally nowhere for the muscle to hide, and that constant work sends a huge signal for it to grow back stronger.
All right, we've hit the muscle with a solid foundation move. We've blasted it with constant tension. Now it's time for the finisher. We're going to wrap things up with a powerful exercise that not only builds strength, but also promotes long-term shoulder health.
To finish off the workout, we're using a movement that's kind of part muscle builder, part posture corrector. It's the classic face pull. So you'll use a rope attachment for this one. You're going to pull the handles towards your forehead, keeping your elbows high. But listen up, this next part is the most important detail. At the very end of the pull, I want you to rotate your wrists outward, kind of like you're doing a bicep flex pose. That little external rotation is what fires up all the small stabilizing muscles in your rotator cuff, making your whole shoulder stronger.
And this is why you absolutely cannot skip the face pull. It's not just about the rear delts anymore. This move strengthens the entire shoulder structure. This creates balance, it helps prevent those annoying gym injuries, and it can even help fix your posture from sitting hunched over a desk all day. It really is a powerhouse exercise. Okay, we've covered the what, the why, and the how. Now let's put it all together into a simple, straightforward blueprint that you can take right with you to the gym. And here it is, your complete blueprint. You start by waking up and isolating the muscle with the reverse fly. Then, you maximize the growth with the constant tension of the cable fly. And finally, you basically bulletproof the whole joint with the face pull. See how each move builds on the last? It's simple, it's effective, and it's a complete rear delt workout.
So, the big question, how often should you do this? The blueprint calls for this exact routine twice a week. That's the sweet spot. It gives the muscles enough of a challenge to grow, but also plenty of time to recover.
And at the end of the day, this is the most important piece of the whole puzzle. You had the plan, you know the moves, but the results, they're built on consistency. So the only question left is, are you ready to stop just training for the mirror and start building real 3D strength that's impressive from every single angle?